Another 10 more seconds. We still have people trickling in. All right, while people are coming in, let me start off by introducing myself and my organization. My name is Manoj Kalyan. I head the big data practice and the products team in WNS. This is a quick overview about our company. We're roughly about 20 years old as an organization. We proudly call ourselves a business process management company. So a lot of you would have heard about our BPO business. That's how it started. And then we've transformed. We've become a BPM company. We've been doing a lot of analytics work in the past decade. We've now forayed into technology space as well. We do a lot of big data work in the technology side and a good amount of digital work as well. So we are a company that's undergoing transformation. We are a company that's growing really fast and bringing a lot of value from a business perspective. Right. This is a quick overview about our data analytics capability also. So I'm using this time to do some sales here while people still settle down. With respect to our business, we do a lot of work in the analytics space, as I said. Again, typical descriptive analytics, do a lot of predictive analytics. We do a lot of ML work as well. We've done a good amount of work now in the IoT space as well. We're branching off into a lot of technology work. If you've not heard about us in the past, this is the time when we are breaking out. We're doing a lot of work in that space as well. And we're growing pretty fast in this business, while a lot of our other businesses, our traditional businesses, are also seeing a slowdown. We are keeping pace with the rest of the digital companies and growing this business, which has helped our company grow at the pace that it was growing always. We are still growing at 20% growth annually, primarily because of this business. And that's where our focus is going to be also. Right. I think we've given enough time. I have 30 minutes, so let me start off. So what are we talking about here? Big data analytics, it's been 10 years when people have started flirting with it, experimenting, trying out things, doing some POCs, a lot of things in the last decade. And it's become a $200 billion industry right now. But a majority of the companies are still feeling that they've not realized the benefits, right? In a recent survey, 52% of the organizations said that they've not been able to measure their success. And that's not old information. This is like about 5 months old, right? And it's been a decade and it's 5 months ago, and 52% of the companies that have invested in big data still feel that they don't have a way to realistically measure their success in this space, and that they've not been able to validate and say that, yes, there is a big impact in the business, right? And the other thing, only 37%, about roughly a little over 1/3 of the businesses have been able to bring in a data-driven culture, right? This is something that every company has been striving for in the last decade, but only 1/3 have been able to achieve that. Now, this is something that's not tying in with the amount of money that's been spent, right? $200 billion industry, and 1/3 of the companies feel that they've been able to make a change. Right, and there are a couple of reasons that people have stated. Strategy being one thing. They've not been able to think through on what to invest in, how to go about with their big data program. And the other thing is the organizational alignment, a little bit on the political side, maybe on the change management side, and so on and so forth, right? But then these are two of the blockers. So that's what it is. So then what's happening with the other 48%? That's what we need to figure out, right? What do the other 48% do right? Yes, half of the companies have not realized, but then the other half have figured out something, or they're claiming that they've done something. Maybe partially, they've started seeing success, but there's something that they're doing right, and that's what we'll talk about in the next 30 minutes or so. Right? I almost feel like George Bush's statement, right? If you have to, every company is now a data company. If you're not going to last. Right? So that's important for every company to know, and it's just not companies that are doing analytics as a business or driven by analytics. Any company that is doing business in this world has to become a data company. Right, here are a few of the examples. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about a few things that we have realized over a period of time through our experiences in delivering some of these projects. And I've broadly bucketed them into 2 or 3 areas where we feel we can bring in a change. The first thing is with the design, right? We've got to think about how you want to set up the architecture. One of the core things that we realized is start small. And a lot of companies actually do. They start small with 1 or 2 programs, 1 or 2 ideas that they want to solve, 1 or 2 problems that they want to solve, 1 or 2 ideas that they have to bring in more revenue and stuff like that. But what happens is after a while, they get so bogged down with the technology piece of it, they struggle with setting up the platform, and after a while they realize that they're going nowhere, right? And they're not able to expand. And this is an example of a company that we're consulting with. This is actually live. We're actually doing something with them. We're actually doing a re-architecture work with them. So this company has been in this program, on their big data program for a couple of years. And after that, they've realized that they're not able to scale up, nor has their business seen some real value in it. And there's a lot of questions raised on what they're doing, right? So what are the key things that we did? And what we're bringing to them now is we're actually looking at the way they've gone about the program. And a few of our learnings, is we're trying to bring it back to them, right? Start small. I mean, yes, and most companies do again. Yes, they do start small. But then one mistake that we've seen a lot of companies do is they limit their view of what they want, where they want to be, to those problems that they're dealing with currently, right? Start small, but then do not forget the use cases that you may encounter that are not valid today, right? Do not forget to include them, right? You may not need them today, but then you will still have to have a blueprint on where you want to be, right? You may not build those components out. You may not actually spend time in setting up things. You may not even do an actually proof of concept or things like that, right? But then as long as you're able to visualize where you want to be, as long as you're able to visualize where your business is going to be in the next few years, you will have to have your blueprint. You will have to have your model built out in a way that you can scale out later, right? Build a flexible platform. Build something that can adapt to the changes. People are already talking that Hadoop is extinct. People have to move on to Spark. There are different theories, different fights going on, but then there's always this change that is going to be there. Earlier technology changes used to happen in 5, 10 years, but now it's going to be every other year. You're going to see a new technology emerging. You're going to see something new coming up. Your competitor is going to work on something else. So have a flexible model where you can plug and play. Don't get locked into anything. Leverage the cloud services to scale fast. Cloud as an industry has been growing phenomenally, especially in the BI space. It's a 50% growth in the last 3 years. And this is some data that Amazon shared. In the last year and a half, there have been about 25,000 databases that have moved onto the cloud. So I think a lot of companies are adopting. I think you should have a clear mind, open mind to adopting cloud, because that's the way for you to scale up. That's the way for you to experiment. The only caution there is or thing that you'll have to think about is don't get locked into one platform or the other. Yes, use the services that are provided, native services that are provided by the cloud service providers, but then don't get locked in too much, so that you then have to depend on their strategy to move forward. The other thing, similar to what I spoke in the past, in the previous slide, look beyond the immediate needs. So when you're trying to solve a problem, see if that data can be used elsewhere. Again, a live example of something that we did for a manufacturing firm. The company was trying to build something from a preventive maintenance perspective, right? They wanted to have data collected out of their sensors. So they had some amount of data coming in already from their sensors. So they wanted to use that data to actually put in a preventive maintenance platform, collect information, and see if they can do something about it. Then as we discussed, we also had a chance to meet with some of their business owners, and we actually figured out that this information that they have could actually help them on their operation side, right? I mean, there's a lot of idle hours that we figured out that were there in these machines, which could have been put into productive use. So actually, when we started looking at the data, we figured out that this data could be useful for the business as well. Apart from the guys who are maintaining, this could actually be useful for the business to figure out how they can, improve their productivity, use these machines to process more, right? So repurpose the data. Look at a couple of things. One, when you're looking at a project, see if that data is useful for something else in the organization. Have a wider view of where else could that data be useful. Figure out if that could be useful in a completely different perspective. Used in a completely different perspective, right? I mean, if you're solving something on the sales side, see if that data is useful elsewhere in the organization, and so on and so forth. And one of the other things that we also realized is with the advent of machine learning, I'm not saying it's a silver bullet yet, but then there is a way to repurpose the data. I mean, you have the opportunity now to repurpose the data, even if you don't have a clear-cut case in the beginning. See if there are new correlations that are emerging, and maybe you'll be surprised with what you can do from repurposing the data, right? Data discovery is one of the ways to solving all this. I mean, go figure out, what is there in the data without having a already thought out hypothesis. I mean, there is a lot more that you can discover, and this is a big industry. Again, it's expected to be a 10.5 billion industry in about 5 years or 4 years from now, right? And the other thing, watch out for something. This is what Gartner calls as the next big disruption. This is smart data discovery, where there are already products in the market which are leveraging machine learning and AI and stuff like that to give you a view. So the analysts don't have to really come up with an hypothesis and code and stuff like that. At the click of a few buttons, you actually can discover some meaningful insight about your business. Right? This is going to be the next big thing in the market. The other thing, yeah, big data. I'm sure a lot of people have gone beyond this now, but then I thought I'll still include that because we still encounter situations where companies have solved the volume part of it, but then they don't realize the potential of the other V's. And this is, again, an example of a company that we worked with, right? This is a pharma company which was receiving huge amount of data sets, right? And big volume, big files. And the focus was actually on how to process them. But then what they didn't realize is if they had tweaked their architecture a little bit, they could have cut down the latency, right? I mean, it was taking about 15, 20 days to get the data across to the analysts. But then with what we could consult with them and what we did for them, now we're able to bring it down. It's 2 is still in the works. We've brought it down to about 3.5 days. The entire process, right from the area where the file was generated to the point where the analyst could actually run their algorithms on top of it. So this is another thing that you'll have to look out for. I mean, solve the other V's as you go on. Speed, we don't realize the value, the potential that it can bring in if you solve that problem. More than handling the volume, personally, I feel that if you're able to do things faster and you're able to show that value to the business, I think that's something that I think the business will immediately buy in, and they'll be probably more happier about that problem being solved. Of course, with the world becoming digital, you'll have to always plan for the other 2 things where you will have different varieties of data coming in at different times, and you'll have to plan for that as well. And if you've not planned, I think this is the time to plan, because every company is becoming digital, and I wouldn't be surprised if you're dealing with this problem in the next year or 2 if you've not already seeing them. Yeah, another thing. So this is another problem that we've again noticed while we were consulting with our clients. A lot of them are focused on getting the data in, so much focus that they want to get everything around under the sun into their big data platform. And in that process, forgetting the fact that they're actually trying to solve a business problem, not just getting the data in, right? And that's where people just get lost in those thoughts. And after a few months, they realize that they've got everything in, but then it's been too late, right? It's already too late. So some of the data can actually live outside of it. And you can use data virtualization is something that is picking up. Not every data is needed 24/7, right? Some of it can be in low latency, low cost storage. You can actually put it away from your high availability systems. And when needed, you can actually virtualize the data and do your analytics, right? So, and virtualization again helps you with setting up your sandboxes, right? Pretty fast. You can actually have some of your core base data brought into your sandbox. Not everything needs to be in your sandbox. Some of your master data could still reside elsewhere, and you can just virtualize it so that you don't spend time in pulling the data over multiple times for different analysts to perform their tasks, right? So this is an industry. This is an area that is going to become an industry on its own, right? So a lot of companies are investing a good amount of money into that. This is expected to be nearly a $7 billion market. And at any point, right, in about 3 years from now, Gartner predicts that 1/3 of the companies would have used data virtualization in one way or the other. Somewhere in the organization, they would have started using data virtualization. And this is something that you should definitely consider if you're actually having a lot of sandbox environments and stuff like that. Right, now done with the platform. The other thing where people miss out is, how is the data being disseminated, right? How are people using data? Is it democratized enough so that people can actually derive value out of it? Self-serve analytics, another new area that's really hot, that's picking up, has been around for a few years, but then things are rapidly changing now, right? The IT probably has come to terms with it. If you build it, they will come to it. Story doesn't exist anymore. You have to go out, reach out to the users, set it up for them so that people can build their own ad hoc. They can build their own models. They can use it ad hoc. They can do away with all the time that it takes for IT to set up things, right? This is a prediction. I'm not sure. We're actually just 3 years from where, so maybe that number is a little bloated, but we were getting there. I mean, if not 2020, maybe a couple of years down the line, but 80% of all enterprise reporting would become self-service, right? I mean, so you would have people building their own reports, having more control on the data, and that's what Gartner has predicted. And the other thing is the analysts also now with a lot of applications having analytics inbuilt into it, the users will also need the facility to embed their analytics, right? So as long as our platform provides the feature for that, I think that's where you're going to derive value for the organization, right? So that's another area you may want to focus on. And again, the third part to it is not just the reporting part. There's again the myth that self-serve BI would only mean the reporting side of things. Then there's a lot more that is there. I mean, in terms of data prep and data integration that people want their own control on. So there's a lot of emphasis now in the organizations on self-service integration, right? Data integration where people have control on cleansing the data and also kind of wrangling the data in and all that stuff. So that's the other area of if we can start focusing on, we derive more value out of that, right? Now that we've got all the data in, the problem is that people don't know where to find data, right? There's a lot of data lying in the organizations. Sometimes you just blank as to where you'd find your data set. We were again consulting a pharma company there in this case. There's a lot of data that came into the organization from syndicated sources and their clinical trials and stuff like that, and it was lying all over the place. And when they needed it, it was always a scramble. There was actually like a week that was lost in figuring out what data to use, when to use, and stuff like that. Now that is valuable time. Maybe that industry, yeah, you could still live with it for now, but maybe not for long. But then there are other industries where 1 week is like, you've lost the business, right? So this is one area that companies have to focus in, build in a good data cataloging platform. It helps you find trusted data. I mean, there is still a role for the IT to play here. That's why I put the word trusted data there, because you still need to ensure that the data that is there is usable, it is validated, and it's not a free-for-all, right? I mean, everybody doesn't, you don't want people to use whatever they deem fit, for a certain analysis. You may want to have that trusted data put in there and have those data sets exposed for you to do the analysis. Again, the expectation is that a system like this would foster collaboration, and that's the new mantra. You want a lot of people coming in. There's even companies going out and doing crowdsourcing in terms of analytics. So you want more people in the organization participating in your, in your pursuit to find the right solution. So you may want to have a platform where people can actually come in, participate, put their thoughts in, and it could be a multidisciplinary team as well. And these are solutions that help doing that. I mean, so you're actually a couple of things along with the data catalog that will actually help. One is making sure that you have a good metadata strategy. You'll have put in the right metadata in so that people can find the right data set. The second is to set up a platform where people can actually participate, access these data sets through a single window, so to say, and then build their own, put their own perspective in. I mean, the data engineers could participate in doing all the heavy lifting, bring the data over. The analysts could do probably the exploratory analysis, and then you always can bring in your data scientists or your statisticians to do the real math work, the real brainy work, right? So, and if it's all in one platform, the idea here is to, have them delivered in an iterative manner, and as long as you can have that in a single place, it fosters that collaboration and delivers the results faster. Right. Now that we've ensured that people are taken care of and the platform is taken care of, what do I do with the data? I've got a lot of data, and what do I do with it? Can I make some money out of it? Yes. And if you don't know what to do, I mean, take a leave out of Facebook's experiments. Here's what Facebook has been doing. I don't know how many of you are aware of Audience Direct. Here's what Facebook has been doing. They claim that they don't sell your data, but what they've been doing is they've been productizing the data that they've been holding and actually helping advertisers to advertise and target their audience, right? So they've been actually using your data. Although they say that they anonymize it, they aggregate it, and they don't let anybody know what you've been reading on Facebook, but But yes, Facebook has been using the data, and that's a scary thing, right? I mean, like 90% accuracy in terms of on-target delivery. That's what Nielsen's reports have claimed, and that's what Facebook also claims. So that's a significant jump from 59% that was there for narrow targeting, right? So Facebook is going to sell more if this is true, and a lot of people are going to buy it. And you don't know, I don't know if you've heard of Ford's story, what Ford has been doing with the data that they've been collecting. So some years ago, they came up with the sync system that was there in your car. I don't think they introduced it in India, but then they had it in the US and I think in Europe as well. So you could actually connect your mobiles with it. It was actually collecting some diagnostic information and stuff like that. So they've collected a huge amount of data, and Ford is becoming a data company now. They're moving away from being only an automobile provider. They actually launched a product called Ford Pass. And this is open for people who don't have a Ford car as well. So you can actually go in and download and use it. So it helps you find parking lots, because they've been figuring out that when people park for a long time, they kind of figured out that these are parking lots. They've been also using Google's data. You can actually find fuel stations. It also gives you information around how your engine is performing. If you're a Ford owner, it gives you information on how your engine is performing, how your other diagnostics are there. And so they're actually trying to empower the driver with more information so that they can do their own analysis and figure out how they want to use their cars, and so on and so forth, right? So they're actually getting closer to the customer, and eventually I think they want to also move into a space where people don't have to buy cars. You can actually take a car, drive it, leave it somewhere, and you can all do that in that app. And they're becoming probably this is a case of an auto major trying to become an Uber, right? So open up your data, servicify them, make sure that there is a revenue stream. There's obvious benefit there in the data that you hold. So open that up. Even if you're not making money, make sure this is another thing that it's already happening a lot in the CPG and retail space where people are sharing data across the value chain, but then there's a lot more potential to it. We've seen it happen in the insurance sector where the insurance agents are now getting handle of the data that the insurance companies have. What the insurance companies benefit out of that is while the agents are selling a product, they're able to make better decisions. They're able to upsell, but also minimize the risk, right? I mean, if they do see a risky profile, they can actually customize the product and cut down the risk for the insurer. So it actually benefits the insurance company to open up this data, make sure that everybody in the value chain benefits out of it. So what to expect in the near future? Some things that are happening, some things that are already happening. A lot of IoT work is happening. So if your platforms are not geared up, I think we should. And this will affect every industry, just not the manufacturing sector. This could affect every company now. These are some of the predictions from Gartner again, right? So 50% of the data that's collected from IoT devices would actually be analyzed close to the network. There'll be a lot of edge analytics. So your platforms have to be geared up for that. You'll have to make sure that you're able to bring in some real-time data, the ability to process real-time data and streaming data and stuff like that. 80% of the applications will do both, right? A lot of applications will do edge analytics, will also store the data, so you need to worry about both the problems. And IoT analytics would become a separate business on its own, right? It could become a separate category, so you can specialize in it. That's an area of interest. AI, the next convergence, a lot of people are talking about. AI has been around for decades, but I think with the arrival of big data and the ability to do machine learning at scale, AI has found a new life.